There we go. Now we Gucci. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm headed up to the schoolhouse. Got our fifth grade program.
Schoolhouse
It's gonna be
rock.
yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, you going as a parent or as an educator?
I'm going as uh I'm the team lead for like, PE, music, library, and art. So because it's a music program, I want to make sure that I support my team. That's how I am. I'm a team player, bro.
Yeah,
Always.
man. Hey, man, I
Always.
wanted
If
to
I
ask you,
could throw an alley oop, I'm gonna throw an alley oop.
what got you into education, bro?
My grandmother and my pops. And my
Really?
pops. Yeah. So like this was so man, long story. So originally I wanted to be oh snap, this thing ain't tight. Every time I turn, this thing gonna swerve. Uh so originally I wanted to be a lawyer like in fourth grade. But the reason I wanted to be a lawyer was just because I like to argue and I was good at it.
Yeah.
It's like when you can get your parents to be like, I mean, well, and you get your teachers to be like, well, you gotta. I don't know what to say.
I can't
Like,
say you're right, but you're not wrong.
you know. So I was like, I can do this. So I wrote a research paper in fourth grade, and I did some field experience. My uncle was a lawyer,
Okay.
so I lived in Slidell, so I went over the lake with him to New Orleans. Spent some time at City Hall and went to the courthouse. It was boring. It was so boring. I was like, you know what? Like I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. I think the best part was lunch. Like that was the best part. So I was like, I don't think I want to be a lawyer anymore. That killed that dream for me. So then, like after that, I was just like, we'll see. I kept saying lawyer, but I didn't really know. And then I got up to like high school, started getting like crunch time. I knew I wanted to make good grades. I knew I needed to go to college, so my GPA was up. Uh, but it was just like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, well, I want to be a massage therapist. That's why I told my pops. I said, I want to be a massage therapist. You know what I'm saying, open a business and do that. Move to LA, uh, have my business going, and then go into like acting. Like I'll make money having my business, and then I could have my own schedule to do auditions and stuff. That was my
Right.
plan. But I didn't articulate that plan. My dad was just like, nah, like, you're not about to go. Like, anybody could do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to go to college.
Right.
Not thinking, like, you about to have your own business and be an entrepreneur and not have no student loans. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the mindset of parents at that time. That's what they were pushing.
Pushing,
And
right.
now they see, like, oh, snap.
Yeah. You don't have your son get all this debt.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. We got on these golden cuffs, bro. Got on these golden cuffs. You know what I'm saying? We in the same system, but on the other side. So,
Yeah, bro. Yeah, I'm
so
listening.
like, so I was like, I don't know. He was like, well, why don't you be like a teacher or something? I was like, okay, like that's cool. Like, it was just that. That's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because I already knew like that'll be a cool backup plan. Because I already knew like I wanted to be a model and an actor. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get money. But if I wanted to be like stand up guy, provide for my family, what I'm saying, be a you know a member of society, like all that, contribute,
Yeah, a
uh,
functioning member of society.
like then teacher that's straight. So uh, that's pretty much how I got into that education. Like I said, all right, I'll do that, and I went to Southern, got in the education program there, realized I didn't want to teach in Louisiana because they pay a lot less, and I got to spend some time in the schools. And they were also teaching us, they taught us well at Southern. And they taught us like the ranking of the states, like based on quality of education, like, and I was like, sure, I don't want to go to one of the states that's one of the lowest. Like, cause then
Right.
that's gonna be behavior issues. That's gonna be stressful on me. Like I'm gonna live like that. But lo and behold, I've been living like that for the past 10 years. And now it's time to uh, seek out these other ventures.
Yeah, bro. I think it's crazy too because as an educator, you want to be there for the children, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't expect what these children are going through. And I feel like with my mom, one of the things that really affected me in a positive way was understanding that, because she would take time from our family time, if you will,
Yeah.
every now and then to spend time with the kids. And me, I didn't really trip on it, but my sister really wanted that time, that family time,
Yeah.
right? And for me, it was just cool because I began to see, okay, cool, man, he ain't got no family, bro. Like, he ain't got no clothes. I never forget.
Yeah.
This is right here, bro, has been one of my craziest riddles of life. I would go to school, and I have like one or two classmates that be fresh as hell every day. And I'm like, man, bro, I went to uniform. They got it made. And as time would have it, I would go to college, come back home, drive the same, because, my house was like in the path of the school. And I
Yeah.
realized this nigga living in the hood. He fresh as hell. But what opportunities did he go without? And the best he can do is be fresh as hell.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa. So, it was, I guess for the children, for the students, it's dope because you get to see everybody ain't got it made. But as an educator, it's like, I guess you just come with the job.
Man, I've like in the past 10 years, like I show you seen these grades, bro. In the past 10 years, like I've experienced so much life. Like it feels like a whole lifetime. Just because of like all the stories, like all the lives and people that I've like touched and like have had insights into. And like it's 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 a lot. Like it's a lot on your your soul, your psyche. And you know the I think the biggest thing now is like the kids that I deal with at school are the same age as my kids at home, and so like I'm giving my all from when I wake up to like
Oh
I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah, nonstop.
and like my kids don't necessarily get my best because like they don't get me first, like they get what's left over at the end of the day, and I'm exhausted. Uh, at this point, it's a lot better because I'm not working that daycare job. I was working after work, for a little extra change, and I had to cut that out. So
Yeah, it's funny because my mom, and it's interesting now that my mom and I have this dialogue because I'm out of the house and I don't really have to rebel to speak my mind.
you're right.
We cool as a fan now.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And what's so interesting is I remember graduating high school and coming home and treating home like it was Baton Rouge to say that, I'm down the street, but I ain't spend no time with moms. And I had to explain to her, it's like, when I was younger, he was always gone. And so I naturally am always on the go. And so
yeah.
I feel like, it's a bittersweet thing. Your kids are being homeschooled, so I guess it's more mom time. So it is kind of a
Exactly.
balance. And I think it's key. Like with my dad, but my dad, till he, retired, was a worker, a workaholic, if you will. And for me, I took on the same traits. And I think it's just so important to see for the youth to see that it takes work ethic and it does take going to work. Now, granted, you ain't gotta clock in and clock out. Whatever your job is or your trade is, it's equally important to put that work
Right.
in. So, for the time you did overwork, I think that it served a good purpose.
Yeah, yeah. And I look at people like I like just like I look at my students, my coworkers, and their stories. Like I look at people I haven't met whose stories are well documented, like LeBron and like Samuel L. Jackson, Denzel. Like LeBron is an excellent example of like greatness, just because like of how much time he has to put into what he does, and yet his kids don't want for his attention. You know what I'm saying? Like his wife don't want for his attention.
And
You know,
he does have an off season, so there is somewhat of a balance.
there is an off season, and the amount of money he's making can provide a lifestyle that everybody's comfortable with
Now,
him being gone for a little while. You know what I'm saying?
I want to challenge you here
Okay.
with this question.
I love challenge.
I feel being in public schools, it growed me up in a way where I felt like if I was homeschooled first, I wouldn't have the relatability. Like, it's funny because like I think about it, and my mom picked up on this. But from K through 5, well, elementary school for the most part, it really defined who I am as a person.
Okay.
I realized I finished my work faster. I helped people because my work already done, and then it made me neutral to everybody. So I ain't gonna say the lames, but the more reserved people, the sports people, the cool people, the very intelligent people, the nerdy people, I vibe with everybody.
Exactly.
I have those same traits now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I really related back to that time period. So my challenge question for you is, do you feel kids in the public school should be homeschooled second, or do you feel like your children, they should be homeschooled first? What's your take on that?
Well, that is an excellent question, and there's a lot of factors within that question that can sway the answer anyway. Like, because when you say public schools, there's grades of public schools. Like some schools are rated A, some schools are rated F. So if you go to an A school, you'll probably get a quality education. But if you go to an F school, you'll probably get an F-rated education. And those students, I believe, if they have a home environment that is conducive to learning, then they should be in that place. Not everybody is meant or made to do that. But I do believe every mother is most likely the expert on their child. Now, that doesn't mean you can't outsource for things that you're not an expert in. But when it comes to who they are, like the mother was with them since before they were outside the womb, So if anybody knows them, it's the mom. And then if anybody would care for them, it should be the mom, I believe. And so,
now most mamas is doing it by themselves. So it's like, I gotta work, just go to school.
Yeah, and when you play in both roles like that, like, and there's no support, I don't see how that's even like an option, But at the same time, there are a lot of women out there that have jobs that allow them to do that. Because really, public school system was basically shaped by the Rockefeller family.
Yep.
And so they were.
What did he say? He raised what education is to develop a country of workers and not thinkers.
Workers and not thinkers. Workers and not thinkers.
Oh,
so how do you produce that? You teach them everything about nothing.
The worker mindset.
You teach them everything about nothing, and then you have them conditioned to the work day, and it takes 12 years to condition a person into that for it to last.
So do you know why they introduced colleges? Are you familiar with the history?
Mm-mm.
So what happened was this. Now, mind you, my grandmother was born in 1927. Okay. And if you look at the newspapers, the U.S. was sold to I'm sorry, no, what did it say? USA sold to U.S. bankers and that came out in 1927. So in 1907, the Board of Education was created in 1907. 20 years later, the USA was sold to bankers. So they locked the game down early. But what I want to say was they noticed that there was a gap between the working class and children. So if children finish, junior high school by 14, 15, right, you had to be 18 to work, right?
Okay.
And so what is that middle? Let's put them back in school. Let's teach them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then usher in college. And then with college, the same system. Teach them a whole bunch of nothing, charge them, and then have them pay. And with adults, their version of that was homes. So, not going for the tangent, but in so many ways, like they got us good.
Yeah. So basically, back to your question, now that all that's been cleared up, I feel like if you know how to read and do math, like, because it's like, why are you doing all this algebra and trig, but you can't balance a checkbook? Like, you can make it through algebra too, but you in debt.
And just to add a drop of confidence, I'll let you finish. It's crazy because in Atlanta, Atlanta is 2-minute warning. Atlanta's black capital, so they taught us how to do a checking account or savings account at elementary school, but they also check this out. Because my school was in the hood and we didn't have spelling bees, I felt more competitive because I know we ain't had nothing like that. So if we did have something, if I did have that exposure, I could have been in a space where I was actually conditioned to not be vocal because everybody was smarter than me. So, being a big fish in a small pond, it kind of helps. But then I feel like if you're in a small pond and you want to be heard, going to a larger school or more important school can work against you. And that's kind of what I feel like you said with the mom. I think some moms know their child. I feel like certain children should be homeschooled to develop them before they go into public school.
Yeah. Like with who they are, like being comfortable with who, because like, especially around like middle school age, a lot of people, because you said who you were by 5th grade is like who you were. Like those years like kind of defined you.
Yeah.
And so like, I want to make sure that like we're holding the reins on how they're being defined, and who they're becoming. And like I said, like they outsource. They have spaces where they're around people that aren't with us, and they're around other kids. There's whole homeschool communities here in Houston that meet regularly
Okay.
and like do classes together. Some have like even more of a school-like vibe, because a lot of those moms went to school. I think my kids are unique in the sense that, like, we just try different curriculums. And, like I said, I believe, like, reading is important, logic is important, critical thinking, math. If you could develop those things, like, you can basically teach yourself anything. And when it comes to, like, social interaction, a lot of times the things that we learn, quote unquote, like are experiential and damaging in a sense. And sometimes we don't have the knowledge to know like that's not right. Like I've experienced that and that's not right. And you go along and you've made it a part of your life to, pass on that trauma and not realizing that you're doing damage.
Right.
So I just want to be able to have healthy, full, well-rounded human beings, that we can all get it together.
Cool. So lastly, in about 30 seconds or 60 seconds, what are some suggestions that you could impart on parents to help their children, or what could you tell parents that could help them build their children's confidence or reinforce what confidence they do have?
Ask them questions, listen to them, like really, really listen. Uh, I think that in itself, because I know my grandmother instilled the most confidence in me more than anybody, and she asked questions and she listened way more than she talked. And when she did, her words were um, like precise, and her tone was always like pretty even. She wasn't like volatile with her emotional responses, even if I was like annoying. And uh, I guess lastly, like being positive reinforcement. Um, point out the behavior that you like to see, uh, instead of um, calling out what you don't like. Like it's like drops in a bucket. You can feel the positive or you can feel the negative, and that's going to shape their inner voice and how they talk to themselves. So I would say that.
Cool. Truly. Well, hell, it's been another confident conversation. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for tapping in,
Yeah,
bro.
for sure.
Safe travels, dog. And I'm gonna holler at you later.
All right, bro.
All right,
Peace.
truly.